Hey guys, Hayden here with a quick tutorial on navigating your DAW, which just stands for Digital Audio Workstation. A lot of people refer to this as a DAW for short. Just an FYI, these tutorials are geared toward dancers to help you make your own dance mix or edit. We won't be covering anything super fancy or technical, mostly just shortening songs or transitioning from one song to another, things like that. So let's just get right to it. Today we're talking about Audacity. This is one of the more common editors used by dancers, mostly because it's free to use and it's fairly easy to figure out. So at first glance, it can be a little intimidating, but all in all, it's not too bad. It is available on both Windows and Apple, and I did leave a link in the description for you, so if you wanted to download that and follow along. So when opening up Audacity, you should see this screen here. It opens straight into the editor. First thing I'm going to do is import a couple songs just so, one, you can see how that's done, and two, this will actually make the tutorial a little easier to follow along with and to understand. So the two ways that you can import a song is you can do it by going to File here, going to Import, clicking Audio, and then it will pull up your Finder here, and you can navigate to whatever folder your songs are in. In my case, it's the Downloads folder. And then I can just click here on my song number 1, or I can double click it and it'll just open it and then click open. And there you go. And it's now imported into your mix. And then the second way to import an audio file or song is to simply just go to your Finder window and then navigate to wherever your songs are, again, in Downloads in my case, and then I can just drag that. In this case, I'll drag a sound effect and just drop that into my mix there. Now we have successfully imported a song and sound effect into our mix. If I click on this track here, it'll highlight it, and you'll see that it's highlighted because it has these 2 yellow bars. I'm just going to shrink this down. I don't like my tracks to be so big. Same thing with my sound effect here. Okay, so we're just going to show you around Audacity. We're just going to start in the top left-hand corner and go through all these tools, and I'm going to kind of skim through some of the ones that aren't really necessary for you as a dancer, making a simple mix. So the transport bar, this is obviously a pretty helpful tool. Play, stop, pause, this is how you navigate. I'll just show you how this works real quick. Anywhere I click on the mix with my cursor tool, that's where it's going to start the playback from. So let's say I want to go to a chorus here, I can just click here and I can preview this chorus. I can hit play, hit stop, and anyway, so I can kind of really quickly find the parts that I want to keep or take out of my mix or edit. Over here we have some cursor tools. The only tools I really use here are the selection tool, which is the one that it's currently on. I can navigate around, but I can also select a verse or chorus once I've kind of determined what these parts are. I don't ever use this envelope tool. The pencil tool I never use. That's more for surgical removal of things. That's not really something we can get into here. The zoom tool is really handy. I can click on this track and zoom in if I really want to dial in on an edit. And if I right click, it will zoom back out. And then this right here I use all the time as well. This is how I move things around. So I can grab a clip, or I can scroll over here. I can scroll with this, or I have a magic mouse. I can just swipe left and right on my magic mouse. But then I can move this sound effect as well, place it where I want in my song or mix. And this is the multi-tool. This kind of is a combination of a bunch of tools. I don't really use this because it can get a little confusing. It's my selector tool, then it's the envelope tool. As I hover over different parts of the mix, it'll change. So I usually just kind of stick with, okay, if I'm going to select something, I'll go to my selector tool here. If I'm going to zoom in, I go there. If I'm going to move something around, I click there. So that's how I use that. You got your monitoring up here. You probably won't be using this. This is more for recording things, not for editing or making a mix. Here you've got your meter. This is your master meter, so you can see how loud your mix is. You've got your mic input volume and your audio output volume, so you won't have to worry about this. And then here you have your playback volume, and I just keep that at 100%. Cut and copy, so this is pretty simple. I can make a selection and I can cut it, and it'll be cut, and then I can click somewhere else and I can hit paste, and it will paste it somewhere else on my track. So as you can see, that can be a really handy tool. I'm just going to undo that. Okay, these are actually kind of handy as well. This right here is the Trim Audio Outside Selection tool. So let's say I want to isolate just a chorus. So if I were to take this selection here, I could say this is the part I want to keep. If I click that, everything else around it will vanish, and I'm left with the part that I want. So that can be really handy as well. Again, I'm going to hit Command Z and undo that. And then here is the silence audio selection. So this will delete a part of the song, but it won't shorten the mix. So if I just hit delete key, it's actually just going to bring everything together. It's going to cut that part out, but also squish everything to the left and shorten my song. But if I use this tool here and silence, it'll just cut it out, but leave my track the length that it should be. This is really helpful if you have notes of like, oh, I need to cut out, 2 minutes to 2:15. Then I can select that and just cut it out using this tool instead. That way it doesn't move around your timeline and get confusing. And then obviously we have our undo button here as well. So I can click there to undo the steps that I've made. Zoom tool, so I can zoom in and out, just like this up here with my right click and left click. This will play your song back at a higher speed. This won't actually change the mix. This is just for previewing. So I use this sometimes, but not a whole lot. Typically, if I want to speed up or slow down a song, I will just speed it up or slow it down and not really preview it first. And that'll be covered in a later video as well if you're interested in knowing how to speed up or slow down a song. And then on your track here, obviously we have our waveform, and over here we have the name of our song. We have mute and solo. So if I have 2 tracks going, I can hit solo and it'll mute everything else. Or I can just mute this track and then it will just play the other tracks. And then here we have our volume. This is our gain, so you can increase the volume of a track. And you have the panning, which the pan isn't super important either. The select tool is really handy because it selects the entire track. Oh, let me switch back to my selector tool. So if I'm selected here and I want to select this whole track to add an effect or do some work to it or just delete it or whatever, I can click select and it'll select the whole thing. Same thing down here, it'll select the entire track for me. So that's kind of handy. Down here at the bottom, we have some other information that's not super helpful. Project rate, you can just leave that at 44.1. The snap to stuff, it really just changes the way that your clips will snap together as I drag them left and right. You'll see that that kind of snapped to that sound effect. So that can be useful. I don't really use it a lot. I just use the snap that's already pre-selected. So down here we have our LCD as well, so we can know as we move along the timeline with our selection tool here, it'll update. So this is 1:49. So, I mean, this is really helpful up here. It tells me, this ruler up here tells me where I'm at, but down here is really a lot more helpful to really dial into the seconds. I can edit that too, so I can add the milliseconds or take out the milliseconds if you don't want to see those. So another critical tool that isn't as obvious as others is the effects tab, and that's up here at the top. And the main one you want to pay attention to is the fade in and fade out tools here. These are really helpful in making a mix so you can avoid the clicks and pops when you're chopping a song up. So just bear in mind that those are pretty useful as well. We'll show you how to use those in another video. Yeah, I think that's just about everything. So just to recap, the most useful tools you'll probably use for mixing and editing dance mix are the transport for playback, the selector tool, the cursor tools, particularly the zoom, time shift, and then here we have the cut, copy, and paste, which are really handy, as well as these trim audios and silence audio buttons. They're really handy. You have your gain and volume here, so you can adjust the volume of your tracks, and you have your effects tab. And that's pretty much the most that you'll be using. And I would just recommend getting in here and just fiddling around and not trying to make a mix off the bat, but just messing around with Audacity and figure out how it kind of works. And we do have some other tutorials on this. So you can kind of get a hang of using it to edit or make a dance mix. So hopefully this video was helpful. If so, please give the video a like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions about making mixes or edits for dance, you can contact me directly or head over to dancecuts.com/contact. And just for those curious, here is Dance Cuts, our music editor made for dancers. It has the critical tools that we discussed needing earlier, but they're hopefully much easier to access and use and learn, as Dance Cuts was created for dancers. It is free, so be sure to check that out. You can do that by heading over to dancecuts.com and navigating to the downloads page. We also have loads of tutorials to help you quickly learn dance cuts, with more tutorials being made regularly. So be on the lookout for those, and we will see you in the next one.